Welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I am Tom Downey. Spring practice is nearly here for the Crimson Tide. So on today's show, we're breaking down some of the top position battles, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. There were 5 rounding down, I guess, for one of them. The very last one you'll see. We wanted to focus on offense here. If you want defensive position battles, even with free agency around the corner, if we get enough likes, bosses said I can do it, not just focus on NFL stuff. We need your help, though. Like the video, 500 likes, and we will do defensive position battles later this week. No surprise what the first one is. Not really ranked, but if we were ranking it, this would also be number 1 for extremely obvious reasons. That is the starting quarterback position, where you will have Austin Mack taking on Keelon Russell. Mack is now entering year 4 in the, not the program, but the offense. He did have his first year in Washington. Great size. He's 6'6", 235. Played very sparingly this past year. Got a little bit more playing time and in garbage time when those moments came about. But Mack is the experienced option. He has been under Kalen DeBoer, now entering 4 years. He has been around the program for Bama, entering year 3. He has, I think, enough talent to justify starting. But he is not the young, exciting, hyped-up option. That is Keelon Russell, the 5-star recruit who has been one of the biggest recruiting gets for Kalen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban. Also worth mentioning, wasn't always viewed as that guy. He was committed to SMU. Bama flipped him, and then he skyrocketed up the composite rankings after that. For a lot of programs, hey, we have a 4-star quarterback who was 16th in his class. That's really good. That's awesome. That is a lot better than what most teams would be able to have. But at Alabama, you're the number 16 ranked quarterback, 230 overall. Congrats, you get the number 2 overall player in his class in Russell. Is Russell ready is going to be the biggest question. I don't think this one gets figured out in spring. It probably takes a decent chunk of the fall to get going, and through the spring game, whatever that looks like this year for the Crimson Tide, into fall, and then they end up making a decision when they feel ready to. So who starts at quarterback week 1 of the season? KR for Keelon Russell, AM for Austin Mack. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes, take advantage of it, go vote. KR or AM. Let's go to running back. And this is both who is the number 1 back, but also who's the 2, and maybe it's even a 1B. Who's the 1C, the 3? It will be a rotation. I think there are 4 guys to monitor here. Sorry, Brown. Sorry, Keith. I think Daniel Hill, A.K. Deere, Kevin Riley, and EJ Crowell. Those are 4 players who are probably all getting ready for spring going, I got a chance to be the guy for the Crimson Tide. I am extremely excited to see what Daniel Hill is able to do this upcoming year. A big part of this we'll discuss later on in today's show. Hey, you need more than just the running backs to be better. Daniel Hill had 6 touchdowns on just 75 carries, caught 28 passes for 203 yards. You need more efficiency, but he's got incredible size. Listed at 6'1", 244, and carries it so well, by the way. He does not look like he's 244. He's got lead back ability. He's got third down ability as well. A.K. Deere was super intriguing before he, when he got playing time, was involved early in the year against ULM and what amounts to, really a redshirt season. The majority of his work, of his 19 carries, 14 came against Eastern Illinois and ULM. The other ones, he had 5 carries for 19 yards against Wisconsin and Georgia. Not much we can really read into it from that point, but the efficiency on a small sample size, the flashes, were highly intriguing. Kevin Riley, who also, by the way, caught 19 passes for 176 yards and a score, a little bit smaller than both Deere and especially Daniel Hill, but he was involved this year. Decent chunk of work, again, came against ULM and Eastern Illinois, but he was still involved. He wasn't efficient because nobody in this ground game was efficient this past year, and that remains an area of concern that has to be better, and that's why the 5-star recruit, EJ Crowell, has a chance to make an impact. It's not like there's an obvious incumbent of he was so good last year, how can you sit him? That guy, although I believe in guys like Hill and Deere and Riley as being pieces, that guy being the superstar next guy hasn't emerged, at least not yet. Well, number 1 recruit in the state of Alabama, 5-star, 15 overall. High school production is stupid good. He's going to get a shot as well. Will Alabama's ground game be better this year? Doesn't have to be elite, but it does need to be better to have success. Y for yes, N for no. Next up is wide receiver number 3, but also all the depth behind it. You're going to have Ryan Williams as wide receiver 1. I almost jokingly put Ryan Williams versus Drops as a position battle in this one. Latsier Brooks is going to, I think, have a big-time step forward in year 2. That leaves Rico Scott, Noah Rogers, Derek Meadows, maybe Sed Morgan as well, competing for 3 through 6. Rico Scott is the incumbent in the building, so to speak. Only had 11 catches last year, 2 touchdowns. Wasn't overly involved. I think it was a good thing that the Tide were able to retain him again. Where did his work come? Kind of came scattered throughout the year. 3 catches for 34 yards against ULM. Noah Rogers, the transfer from NC State, formerly Ohio State, by the way, has a chance to carve out a role. He was more productive last year than Rico Scott, but that's going to be a head-to-head battle. Derek Meadows didn't really do anything that matters last year. He had 0 catches, truly redshirted over the course of the season. But he's got, with Isaiah Horton gone, you don't have the big size guy. Derek Meadows has size. He's listed at 6'5". He's probably a bit heavier now than 212. That is something I think you would like to see a archetypal role filled by Meadows. And Sed Morgan was a highly touted recruit as well. Again, the 24/7 Sports Composite. Top 50 overall recruit and a chance for early playing time this year. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, dime, and board that much more exciting. Don't miss this chance to get going on America's #1 app for sports picks. Not just basketball, about baseball as well. Some season-long baseball Prize Picks here. Brian Bale, less than 4.1 ERA. Garrett Crochet, more than 22.5 strikeouts. Roman Anthony, more than 21.5 home runs. Nick Kurtz, more than 3 multi-homer games. It is simple to play. You pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections. They now offer early payouts as well. Your player gets off to a hot start. You have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Go to the next top position battle here. That is tight end number 2. I am operating under the assumption, and it's an assumption, you can look stupid, I think Kaleb Edwards will be the tight end 1 for the Crimson Tide. But we saw it last year. They are not opposed, and nor should they be, to utilizing multiple players in the tight end room. I think there will be some rotation in committee. I think Danny Lewis, who is an experienced player, has a chance to be a key part, but he only has caught 3 passes over the past 3 seasons. Josh Ford's a transfer. They're going to have, these are more your blocking tight ends, I'd say. Jay Lindsey, Jaxon, Sammarco's probably not going to play much, but Ford and Lewis can be blockers, which you need better blocking than what you got last year, especially when Josh Cuevas was out. Edwards, I think, can carve out a role. I'm kind of excited about Marshall Pritchett. I think he's got some upside. Mack Sutter might need a year of development, but that's a talented freshman tight end who comes in the recruiting class. Jaxon Shuttlesworth, another transfer, lower end, but there's bodies in depth, and how that all plays out, we'll see. Help us get to 38,000 subscribers. I almost added an extra 0 there. 38,000 subs here on the Alabama Football Report. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. The offensive line mindset for me is EBRT. I kept it all capitalized for a reason. It's everything but right tackle, I think, is up for grabs. And if you move Michael Carroll around, okay, they get crazy. But I think you just keep it simple. There's so much change on the offensive line. Keep Michael Carroll at right tackle. And that leaves 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 other backup offensive linemen. Maybe you push even 8. Probably 6 to 8 offensive linemen fighting for 4 spots. That's a lot of competition, and hopefully leads to better results when last year's offensive line was not good enough. So what is your confidence level in the Alabama offensive line? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Get those votes in for me right now. A lot of players to discuss here. Jackson Lloyd, I think the hope is he is the starter at left tackle. He was the top 50 recruit. He's the 4-star offensive lineman, top 10 offensive tackle. Is he ready? I don't know. In the event that Jaxon Lloyd is not ready, that's where Javen James comes in. And I think he has a chance to be not a superstar player, but at least a swing tackle for you. If you don't like the depth along the interior of the offensive line, you could always try to kick Carroll inside, kick James out to right tackle. Gives you, I think, some much-needed swing tackle juice who can start if you need him to. I think they'd like William Sanders, who played a bit last year, to be the left guard. I'd put him as the favorite at that spot. And then it gets interesting. At center, is it Rayson Delgado? He has the experience. He played a lot there. But it was also Cal Poly. It's a very different level of competition. In theory, you're going to know pretty quickly if he is your guy or not. Then at right guard, okay, who's the answer here? Could be somebody like a Nick Brooks who's played tackle and guard and wasn't actually very good last year for Texas. That's a complication. He might need a redshirt year, might be a backup. Caden Strayhorn will compete at center. If he doesn't win that job, I think he's a prime option at right guard as well. That would be an easy plug-in scenario for Alabama, but I thought he actually played pretty well when he's got the start for Michigan at center last year. Another transfer from Michigan, Ty Haywood, could be a tackle. Maybe they don't think he's ready for that. It could be a guard in the short term. Could be a long-term right tackle. He's also just a redshirt freshman, barely played last year. It was 3 games, essentially. Those are all guys fighting for a handful of spots. So as we get further into spring, and maybe if we learn where those guys line up, we'll get a better feel for what the offensive line will look like in 2026.